Okay. Oh yeah, I think I'm like way too far down the rabbit hole to restart. So, oh, hi, Steph. It was wonderful to meet you as well. So, I was at PodX this past weekend in Nashville, and it was just a really incredible experience. Um, the con was run very well. It was nice and small and intimate, and I got to meet so many other amazing podcasters and podcast listeners and podcast creators and producers. Um, Oh, Hannah says, we all like listening to your voice without slides normally, so you should be good. And Jimmy, my good friend Jimmy Bias is saying, come back up the rabbit hole. Okay. So hi friends. I've said it a couple times already in this live stream, but I want to say it again. I'm really glad you're here. I am really glad that you are interested in podcasting. I'm curious if you want to tell me in the chat, how many of you have your own podcast? Hello from Canada. Hello, Observer Pictures. Faith, right? I met you at PodX as well. You were delightful and amazing. Hannah has their own podcast. I know several of you have your own podcast. Sin Ribbon has a podcast called In Her Burning. That's amazing. It's beautiful audio drama. Ooh, Megan Burnside says The Hidden People and DWM presents Unwritten. Wonderful. Justin Hellstrom is working. Oh, longtime editor. So you're working on one right now. Claire says yes. Naomi says that they want to learn how. Oh, I want to learn to podcast how to make jerky for my customers. I love that. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Relativity from Lee Shackelford. Hi, Lee. It was great to see you as well. Candy says, no podcast yet, but I've been wanting to start one for years, and maybe it's time to finally do it. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Sarah Brandel says, not yet. Oh, Caddy L says, I'm producing a podcast called Alpaca My Bags, an ethical travel podcast. I've seen you on Twitter. So hello and welcome. Paul Eaton wants to start one. A lot of creatives here. Serving Worlds, longtime podcast creator. Withdrawal is apparently not an option. No, I feel like it's one of those things where once you start, you kind of don't want to stop because it's, I don't know, it's a little bit addictive because it's validating. Unlike a book where you write it forever and then like 10 years later, you finally get to publish it. With a podcast, you can just kind of publish it however and whenever you want. And it's a really validating medium. Connie Kitts says, yes, I have a couple podcasts. Eyes on BC Magazine is hoping to start one. Wonderful. Oh, another Canadian here and has a podcast too in pre-production. That's Alice. Naboth, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. Let's see. From Africa says, I do hip hop podcasts. Awesome. Sounds awesome. Yes. Oh, Project Woo Woo. Oh, Lisa. Hi. I was like, that sounds really familiar. Hi, Lisa. It's great to see you here. Wonderful. Lindsay D says, I voice act in a few podcasts, but writing my own is definitely a goal. Oh, that's super exciting. Super exciting. Let's see. So normally, Miracles in Manhattan is dropping this week. Awesome, awesome, awesome. It's going to go amazingly. I hope that maybe you take away some things from today's live stream that can help you with your launch. All right. So let's see. I'm curious. There we go. Usually before we begin, I like to say like, hey, go ahead and turn off your phone, turn off any other distractions. You might want to grab a pen and paper to take notes or get open your notes app on your phone or computer. Oh, wonderful. Tavern Tales and Tavern Tales Jr. Perfect. Jimmy, former podcaster. We'll do another one sometime. Yeah, you will. I know you're already working on that. So you're going to do this. All right. And stay tuned. So one of the reasons that I do these live streams is not only to help out the podcasting community, because there's so many amazing podcasters that I think would benefit from marketing and success summits kind of like this one. I'm also starting my own podcast course. Some of you have already taken it and have said very, very nice things about it. So thank you. But it's called the Podcast Now Masterclass. And between the presentation and the Q&A at the end, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the course. So kind of excited about that. It's a big step for me. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. I have a slide with my headshot on it, but obviously this current headshot here is a little bit more up to date. I still have my red glasses and like a different haircut in the other one. So yeah, so this is my face and this is my voice. I'm Sarah Ray Werner. I am the creator of the Right Now podcast, which launched back in 2015, and the creator, writer, host, executive producer, all of those good things for the fictional audio drama called Girl in Space. And so, yes, I've been podcasting for a long time. Girl in Space launched in September 2017. And then in April of that month, I left my day job to podcast and write full time. So I am podcasting full time right now. And there's a lot of stuff wrapped up in that. I have many, many different income streams, and we can talk a little bit about how to make a living off of your podcast and off of your creativity and creative energy as we go through this. Oh, you're all so wonderful. Thank you for your kind statements. Those of you who are looking to podcast full time, it is possible. And so we can talk a little bit about that. So 5 years ago, I was a frustrated blogger. The reason I got into podcasting was because the market was a lot less flooded. Not because I didn't love podcasting. I didn't know yet that I would love podcasting. I had never podcasted before. The closest thing I had gotten to was doing the morning announcements in middle school over the PA system. I was an AV club, and we got to do the morning announcements. And so that was always really fun for me to say, hey, here's our guidance counselor with a few words of inspiration. And it was just a really fun experience to feel the power of my voice broadcasting and to be received by people's ears. It was just a really cool thing. And so I shifted from blogging to podcasting because my good friend Peter Adal was like, hey, if you're frustrated, why don't you try podcasting? This was about 2013. And podcasts weren't really that big yet. And there weren't a lot of female podcasters. So it gave me a little bit of a better chance of getting my message heard and standing out in the sea of media creators. So I launched the Right Now podcast a long time later because I had a lot of resistance at first. I was scared of the equipment. I was nervous about not being good enough. I was nervous about the sound of my voice. A lot of podcasters don't like the sound of their own voice, believe it or not. Morning announcement team represent. I just saw that in the comments. I love it. No, it was a lot of fun. I didn't think I'd be able to do it. And so I kept putting it off. I was like, well, I'll probably have to buy a mixer and learn about like XLR cables and microphones and loudness and all of that stuff. But there's ways to podcast where you don't need a lot of intimidating equipment. And so right now, like if you look around, this is my office. This is where I record Girl in Space. And the Right Now podcast. This is just up to cover up some construction that I'm doing in my office and some messes. But you'll notice I'm not in a fancy studio. I'm not downtown New York. I am in the Midwest. I'm in a house. It's a tiny house, and I live on a hill. At some point, you might hear some fire trucks going by or tractors or what have you, because again, it's the Midwest. Throne Publishing Group says respect. Thank you, Jeremy. I also use, I'm going to try to turn this around without deafening everyone. This is my Blue Yeti mic. This is what I use for Girl in Space for the Right Now podcast. I have a little windscreen on it that you saw, that little black foam hat. And then I have a big piece of audio foam that I set up, and that's how I record my shows. So you don't need access to a big expensive studio. You don't need expensive equipment. I'm just using my laptop. The Blue Yeti is a USB mic that hooks up right into my laptop. And then I use Audacity, which is a free podcasting software. So, yes, Blue Yeti forever. Kenny asks, can I ask how you deal with the extra noise outside? Yes. I hit pause a lot while I'm recording. And then if somebody's like mowing their lawn or something, I just wait it out. I don't know if you can hear it right now, but there's actually a train in the background because there's train tracks at the end of the road. I don't know if you can hear it. Sometimes my mic doesn't pick that up. Paul asked, does Audacity allow you to edit? Yes, it does. So you can't edit so you can't edit in real time. So you have to record and then stop and then edit. And it also, you have to like stop while you're editing. Other programs, other expensive programs that you actually pay money for, I believe will let you edit while you're listening to it. And this doesn't let you do that. But otherwise, I've found it's a really great program to use. Okay, Mateo says he cannot hear the train, so that makes me really happy. Hannah says, I record from my studio on a busy street in London next to a hospital, so I have to stop for sirens. It's true. It's true. Okay, so I'm like getting way off track because you got me started talking about my love of podcasting, and now I'm never going to let you go. So you're all stuck here with me talking about podcasting. But anyway, that's how I got my start. I really found that I love podcasting when I noticed the effect that my voice could have on people. And it was a lot more of an effect than the written word for me. And I'm not sure if that's because the human voice has such a visceral effect on us. We were just wired to respond to human voices. If it was because I was a better podcaster than a blogger, or if it was truly because the podcasting market was so much less saturated at the time than the blogging market. I think at the time I started podcasting, there were only about 200,000 podcasts in a sea of, I want to say it was even almost 500 million blogs. Like it was a lot of blogs. That number, of course, today is, I think, a little closer to 750,000 podcasts, but that's still a relatively small number compared to a lot of other digital mediums that you'll see. So you still have a great chance of standing out with your podcast. All right, let's see. So today, my shows have found success, and I'm really excited about that. And we're going to talk a little bit today about what success means and how you know that you've reached success with your show and how to shoot for success. For me, with the way I have defined success, both my shows have been successful, and it's been a real delight. I've been asked to speak at different things. Like I just said, I got back from PodX in Nashville, Tennessee, which was just a beautiful experience. I'm speaking at the Austin Film Festival coming up in October of this year. They have a podcasting track, which is really cool. And let's see. Yeah, Podcast Movement's coming up. Not 100% sure I'm going to that one, but it's a great conference as well. So, all right. This is all because of podcasting. I like leaving my job, being able to do this for a living. Some other opportunities that I'm excited to tell you about, but I cannot officially announce right now are coming up. So that'll be fun. I would love to hear from you, though. Just real quick, for you as a podcaster, what right now is holding you back from finding the success that you want? I would love to hear that in the chat. What is keeping you from finding the success that you are looking for as a podcaster? Building an audience, says Kyle. Oh, thank you for saying I have a great voice. Mateo says time. Yeah, finding time is hard. Getting exposure, getting your name out there, building an audience, building the audience. Oh, good. So I'm doing on Thursday this week, so June 6th, my live stream on that day. So same time, same place, all of that good stuff. My next live stream is about marketing your podcast like a pro, and we're going to talk about how you build your audience. So please do make sure that you show up for that one as well. Throne Publishing Group says building the team. Oh my gosh, yes, a good team can make or break your podcast. Time to plan, time to record, finding trustworthy collaborators, financial stability. I feel that. Yep. Being okay with my own voice. Yes. Being okay with my own voice acting for an audio drama. All of the fears that you listed. Yes. Voice, equipment, fear of being no good, afraid I have nothing original to say. Casting is tricky, time, how to find voice actors. Oh my gosh, understanding how to market correctly, audio engineering. Oh, yeah, I learned how to do that myself. I'm a DIY audio engineer. And it's interesting. If you think about it as like putting together a puzzle, it's a little less intimidating. But again, we can get into that in a little bit. Let's see, building an audience, finding people to work with. How do you be financially stable? Oh, Misha is creatively blocked on a script and then finding income streams. Yes. Yes. Okay. Whew. There are a lot of blocks in the podcasting world, but fortunately, every problem has a solution. I promise. Every problem has a solution. Jimmy says, this is the last one I'll read for now. I'm simply afraid I'll put it out there and it'll just flop. No love, no hate, just meh. Yeah. Being afraid that if you risk everything and put it out there, it'll just get no response. That would be very, very frustrating and terrifying. These are all great reasons for you to not start your podcast. So I want you to commit an act of bravery today and say, no matter what, I'm going to create my podcast. No matter what. These fears are very, very valid, and some of them may come true. But please do not let that stop you from trying. All right. Yes. Yes, you are starting your podcast. All caps in the comments. I love it. I'm starting my podcast. Perfect. What you're going to learn today is a couple of different things. We're going to go through, as promised, the 2 keys to a smart podcasting strategy. We're going to talk about who your audience is and who your audience is not. And then we're going to talk about the surprising component that may be turning away your listeners. Okay, so within all of that are the 5 tips to a successful podcast. Naomi says, exactly what do I need step by step, please? I will try my best. There is just so much to go. There's so much to learn here. We're going to go ahead and get to work. Okay, so I'm going to pretend that you can see my slides, even though you can't. Secret number 1, know what success means for your show. So a lot of us talk about what is hindering us from finding podcasting success. And a lot of the times we feel blocked, or we feel afraid, or we feel a significant amount of resistance, but we haven't really defined what success means for us. And so I get a lot of people saying like, oh, I don't have enough followers, or I don't have enough subscribers. Okay, how many do you have? Oh, I only have 10. Okay, well, is 10 not successful? Did you define success as 100? Did you define success as 1,000? Exactly how far away are we from your definition of success, and how can we bridge that? And so knowing what success means for your show will help you determine whether or not you have reached that success. Because the real trick to success is knowing that it always is going to change. So if your original goal is 10 listeners, maybe the next year you'll laugh at that goal and be like, oh, I hit 10 listeners a million years ago. My new goal is 5,000 listeners. And then the next year, success, you've outgrown the old one. Now success is, 10 million listeners, which is a really big step. But just knowing what success is, how to reach each step, and then how to keep growing from there. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. I talk to and coach a lot of podcasters who take for granted what success means, or they don't even consider what it means in the first place. So I think where I'd like to start asking you is, what do you hope to accomplish for your show? So we're not even looking at numbers right now. We're looking at if your show has a true purpose. What is that purpose? What do you want to do? What kind of change do you want to see in the world? We're talking like really lofty goals. I love this. Goal creep. Yes, Dan. Goal creep. It's like scope creep. Yeah, your goal will continue to grow and change. But what do you want to accomplish with your show? I want you to think about that for a little bit. And again, this is outside of numbers. This is outside of subscribers. This is outside of anything like that. Usually what you want is, I want to change someone. I want to impact someone. I want to receive a letter from someone that says, hey, you changed my life, or hey, you saved my life. I want to receive fan art, entertain and frighten people in a good way, connecting readers and connecting ideas together that are normally not connected. I want to make someone, even just one person, feel like they're not alone. That's beautiful. Yes. I want to show everyone they can achieve their goals if they work hard and want it enough. Yes, Elliot. Observer Picture says, I would love people to be as emotionally invested in my characters as I am with some TV shows, like creating that fandom. Yes. Hannah says, I want to change the way people think about museums in their own communities, as well as feeling connected to distant places. Yes. Claire says, make people think about the future and what their actions today impact the world. Yes. How are we impacting the world? So there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of reason to why we create podcasts. And these reasons that you have for starting are going to be what keeps you going through the doldrums, when it gets tedious to produce, when you're frustrated with your voice actors, when you feel like you're running out of ideas or that you're not original enough. Numbers alone aren't going to inspire you back. Like, numbers alone aren't going to make you say, well, okay, I'm really glad I'm doing this. It's going to be the purpose that you started podcasting for. So what do you hope to accomplish for your show, for your audience, and for yourself? What does that success look like to you and for your audience? I want you to ask these questions while you're crafting your podcast mission statement. So I talk a lot about your podcast mission statement, and I actually wrote an article for Forbes on this. And what I'm going to do, since I'm not showing you my presentation and we're just doing this live, I'm going to put a link to it here in the chat, and you can visit it at your leisure. I also might email it out, those of you who are, oh, thank you, Kyle. Kyle says it was a good article. So let's see. I just posted that to our chat. And it's a step-by-step on how to create your podcast mission statement. I always say that this is the first place you should start if you're looking to find success, is defining success. Yes. Oh, thank you, Elliot. You're welcome. So I would encourage you to do that. The next question to ask is, what types of goals will help you fulfill your mission statement? And this is the relationship that a lot of people forget about, is that you need to set goals and meet them. And that's how you're going to start climbing that staircase. You set a goal and you meet it. And then you set another goal and then you meet it. And then you set another goal and you meet it, and so on. And that's how you climb to the top. You don't just like shoot to the top like a human cannonball. Like, nobody's going to put you in a success cannon and just like fire you straight to the top. Chances are, when you launch your first podcast, you're not going to get 75 billion people. There aren't even that many people on the planet. You're not going to get 75 million listens, probably. And if you do, tell me your secrets, because I want to know. No, you're most likely going to get 3 listeners or 4 listeners. Or, if you already have a big audience, maybe 400 listeners or 4,000. You're not going to just rocket straight to the top of your potential. And that's a really good thing. I know you never want to peak too early. You want to be able to work towards your success, earn your success, and have fun along the way. It's a really, really good way to do it. So Sarah, if I'm setting my podcast goals, what are some good examples of those podcast goals? Well, there's a lot of common success goals that people set. For instance, number of downloads is very common. A number of social media followers. So, I want to get up to 200 people following me on Twitter. Number of books or products sold. If you are an author and you're sort of creating this podcast to help increase your authority, that could be a success metric. So, hey, 3 weeks into my podcast, I want to have sold 12 books based on my podcast. Being invited to speak at a conference. That was one of my early podcast goals for the Right Now for the Right Now podcast was, hey, I want this podcast to help prove that I'm a decent speaker and that I can speak in front of people and that I have the authority to do so. So I'm going to start a podcast. And invitations to speak at conferences, maybe a TV deal or a book deal or a movie deal. Maybe that's what success means to you. Maybe it's getting a certain number of 5-star ratings in iTunes, or maybe it's just having a majority of 5-star ratings in iTunes. Maybe it's like we talked about earlier, maybe it's a certain number of pieces of fan mail. Maybe it's erotic fan fiction, like I think Sin Ribbon said earlier. Number of website conversions. So if you have, say, a podcasting course, maybe the number of people who sign up for your course, whether or not your show is recommended by an expert. So if you have a podcast about diabetes and diabetes experts begin recommending your show to people, that could be a success metric. Percentage of business growth, if you're looking to get new customers or clients. Also, I'm drinking 2 drinks right now. I've got my matcha and my water, so please excuse me. And some people even have maybe social or political success metrics. So, hey, I really want to fight for this policy to be implemented, or I really want things here to change. And then finally, for some people, maybe it's just, if your mom listens, maybe that's all you need. Maybe that's your only success metric. So there's a lot of different types of success metrics. And Elliot in the comments is talking about a measurable goal. And yes, you do want these goals to be measurable. You can't just say, I want to bless the world with a feeling of goodness, because you can't really measure that. Short of like going outside and asking people, number 1, have you listened to my podcast? Number 2, do you feel good? You really want it to be something you can measure, like the number of pieces of fan mail you get in a week, or the number of 5-star reviews on iTunes. Yeah, Jimmy says Sarah too fisting the podcaster juice. Okay, actually, I have not only my tea and my water. Don't judge me. I also have a mug of coffee. So I'm really, really fueled here. Don't judge me. So we just went over a lot of different podcasting goals. And what I'd like to focus on for now is which of these goals are not only measurable, but meaningful. And we're going to talk a little bit about meaningful metrics, which, Marco says, don't judge us too harshly, which is a line from Girl in Space. I'm sorry, that's delightful. Thank you. We're going to look at the difference between meaningful metrics, which are going to give you important insights about the success of your show, versus vanity metrics, which will make you feel good, but they won't indicate any sort of useful data or information. All right. So meaningful metrics are often tied to your mission statement. And this is why it's important. Well, one of the reasons it's important for you to make that mission statement. Vanity metrics are often tied to your ego. So they make you feel good, but they don't really indicate whether or not your show is actually successful. My good friend Eli from the Alba Salix podcast says it's a balanced diet. Yes. Coffee, tea, and water. It's my beverage diet. So some potential vanity metrics might be the number of Facebook page likes. And so it might be nice to have a lot of Facebook page likes, but overall, that doesn't indicate whether or not your podcast is successful, whether or not your podcast is living out its mission statement, because correlation, causation, not the same thing. Other potential vanity metrics include the number of Twitter followers that you have, maybe the number of likes on a tweet, the number of likes on an Instagram post, making it into new and noteworthy on iTunes. Well, and iTunes is going away, which is a conversation for a whole nother day. Being a new and noteworthy on Apple Podcasts, I should say. That's a vanity metric, and we'll explain why in just a little bit. Contest or award nominations and wins, again, great for your ego, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your podcast is a success. because the system can be very easily gamed or hacked. I don't know if any of you are active on LinkedIn, but every day on LinkedIn, I get a beautiful number of messages from people saying, "Hello, ma'am, I am a podcast promoter. I will get you into the top 5 of Apple Podcasts, new and noteworthy, for only $5 American." And I mean, yeah, some people have tested it. I've seen tests. It works. They will game the system. They will game the algorithm. They will get you up there, which is why it doesn't mean anything. It's nice to show up there and it feels good for your ego, but it does not mean that your podcast is necessarily helping you live out your mission statement. And it doesn't mean that your podcast is a success. You can also buy Facebook page likes. They're very cheap. You can pay people in other countries or even probably America. I have no idea. You can pay people to like your Facebook page. That doesn't indicate if your podcast is good or not. Same with other social media sites, Instagram, Twitter. You can pay people. I mean, and if that's what floats your boat, then that's awesome, but it's not going to mean your podcast is successful. You can build programs and systems that write reviews or submit your shows to contests. That was a big thing a few years ago. You can call in a favor or pay someone to hype your show, which is also called influencer marketing. So if you can get Kylie Jenner to suggest your show, you might get a whole lot of, follows and likes, but that doesn't necessarily mean your show is a success. So the question here that I want to ask is, are you accomplishing your mission? So those are some potential vanity metrics, some potential, yes. And Sin Ribbon says buying likes and follows has been shown to have very little engagement anyway. That is absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Absolutely. Because they follow you, but then they don't do anything. And so Facebook kind of discounts them. So some potential meaningful metrics might be some things that we talked about earlier, like an email or fan mail from a listener who says, boy, your podcast just really made me feel like I wasn't alone anymore. So thank you. Or it might be a meaningful metric might be if you can produce 10 consecutive episodes in a row on time, consistently. It's harder than it looks. Maybe it's like we mentioned earlier, the number of product sales or client conversions. Maybe it's a TV or book deal. And maybe it's just someone other than your mom listens. So those are some potential meaningful metrics. Mateo says, for me, it's a creative outlet, a hobby to fulfill a creative need. Perfect. Then even by that standard, simply creating it means that you're being successful. And I really love that. I really love that. Kyle says, I would just love it if my mom would actually listen. Same, Kyle. Katie asks, where would you fit reviews in meaningful/vanity? Those kind of go both ways. Reviews serve as a trust signal to potential listeners and can help. If you have enough 5-star reviews, it can help other people to listen. And I think they're also the things that they say can help you determine whether your mission statement is being fulfilled by your show. If they say, hey, this is a great podcast, it made me feel like I wasn't alone, or hey, this is a great podcast, I learned a lot about my illness, and now I know how to seek treatment for it. So sometimes those reviews can tell you if you are indeed sort of finding the success that you set out to find. Otherwise, they can be a vanity metric if you're like, oh, I've got 1,000 5-star reviews and I'm feeling pretty great about myself. And it's not bad to feel good about yourself. You can feel good about yourself. You can be happy that you have, 10,000 followers on Twitter or Instagram. Like, it's not harmful. It just won't indicate that your podcast is maybe as successful in the way that you want it to be. All right. So basically what I'm saying here is you define what success means for your show. You get to define that. You don't have to compare it. You don't have to compare your show to other people's. Because if you're here on the staircase, maybe they're here. And that's okay. Or maybe they're here. Or maybe they're below you. You can't see my hand. There we go. Maybe they're below you, and that's okay. I think it was maybe Theodore Roosevelt, we'll give him the credit for it, said that comparison is the thief of joy. And I want you to have fun creating your show. I don't want you to feel bad because other people have more listeners or like you feel like they're finding more success than you. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about at all. And you're only going to hurt your own heart if you keep looking at other people's success metrics and not your own. So you get to define what success means. You get to define what it means to level up in this game. I'm just over here on my PowerPoint. And again, like I said before, success will change over time. So create a mission statement, which again, there is a link to somewhere in this chat, and I will try to email that out to you as well. Number 2, create meaningful metrics that can help you measure whether you're accomplishing your mission. And number 3, move forward and succeed. Oh, it was Roosevelt. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. All right, so that was secret number 1. That was a big secret. The rest of the secrets are not that big. The rest of the secrets are small. So this will go pretty quickly, and then we'll have time for Q&A. Secret number 2, a little kindness. I'm just so like success-minded right now. A little kindness goes a long way. So when you become a podcaster, you get thrust into what I like to call the cult of personality. Podcasting is a very small and intimate medium, and you as a creator are going to be at the forefront of your creation. So in a way, your face is going to be synonymous with the brand of your show. And this is important to remember because how you treat other people in real life and online can have a big effect on the success of your show. And so what I mean by that is I'm going to dig deep down into the recesses of my memory and bring out please and thank you are called magic words for a reason. If you make people feel good, and if you make them feel listened to and respected and happy, if you give them value, if you are polite to them, and if you treat them like human beings, they will end up with a good feeling about your show. Yes. They are magic words for a reason. So thank people for listening. If you ask to be a guest on another show, say please. Don't assume that you're entitled to be on someone else's show. Yes, karma. Observer Picture says karma. Yes, big time. That is actually where I found a lot of success in my shows, was from being kind and helping others and making sure I put others before myself. So Naomi asks, I have to go. Will this be recorded so I can finish listening later? Yes. Oh, and thank you, Tim. My wonderful moderator says yes, it will. So gratitude and kindness will truly go a long way. And it seems really simple, like it shouldn't be a secret to success, but these elements are really a key to building relationships. And relationships are the key to building community. And community is one of the major keys to podcasting success because, as we'll learn in the next live stream, which is about marketing, communication and community are at the foundation of your marketing strategies. So you got to set yourself up for success. Yes. Okay. That was secret number 2. I told you it was a lot shorter, little short secrets. Secret number 3, your audience is not everyone. I'm going to say that again. Your audience is not everyone. And this was a really hard lesson for me to learn because I come from a marketing background, and we always had this natural inclination to want to reach the most people possible. You always want to reach everybody. You want your billboard to be seen by everyone. You want your radio ad to be heard by everyone, but you're not going to reach everyone. And even out of the people you do reach, your show might not be for some of them, and that's okay. If your show doesn't reach everyone, that's okay. If you reach the right people, that's what matters. Basically, you can't please everyone. Again, this is a lesson that I've had to learn. I thought when I launched Girl in Space, I was like, oh man, it's a sci-fi show and it's going to be for everyone. It's going to be for families and adults and kids and teenagers and people who love sci-fi, but also people who don't love sci-fi, and everyone's going to love it and it's going to be amazing. And I'm super excited. Unfortunately, while some people will like your show, not everyone will like your show because you cannot please everyone. One thing that makes me feel a little bit better sometimes, and not to encourage comparison, but if you've ever gone onto Amazon and looked at some of the reviews for classic works, like there are 1-star reviews out there for Jane Austen's books. There's 1-star reviews out there for James Baldwin and Ernest Hemingway and Virginia Woolf. They all have 1-star reviews. They all have 1-star reviews. Which is why, again, it's important to keep your mission statement top of mind so that you don't get discouraged when you do get 1-star reviews. And you will get 1-star reviews. I've gotten many 1-star reviews. Some people, and some of them say like, oh, this show is just meh, or I couldn't really get into this show because, the acting's not great, or, what have you. You will get your share of 1-star reviews, and that's okay. Because your show's not for everyone, and that's okay. Your job as a marketer, as a podcaster, as a person who's doing this and who's committed to doing this, your job is simply to connect your podcast with the people who will benefit from it most. So your podcaster and the people who will identify with it the most. Sorry, I'm like distracted by the comments. That is really what this is all about. And that's what we'll talk about in our next live stream about marketing, is connecting your show with people who will actually find it valuable and who will actually love it. So basically, takeaway from this is if you are trying to podcast to everyone, you are going to podcast to no one. Because at that point, if you try to water it down for everybody to like it, you're going to end up with the Budweiser of podcasting. That's why like watery, tasteless beers are the most popular, because everyone can deal with them, but there's not a lot of people who love them passionately. And we want to get you building your cult of personality. So say it with me. My podcast is not for everyone, and that's okay. My podcast is not for everyone, and that's okay. And then you just let it go. 1-star reviews, water off a duck's back. They'll still hurt, but they don't have to define who you are. They don't get to do that. Other people don't get to define you. All right. Know your audience, basically, is what I'm saying here. And we'll talk about that again a little bit in the marketing live stream. Know your audience, give them what they value. Make the people happy who your podcast is for. That was terrible grammar, but I think you know what I mean. Gabby says, I want you to be my therapist. Thank you for saying that. All right. Secret number 4. Visual elements are a lot more important than a lot of us give them credit for. I hate to say that. I hate it, but it's true. We do judge books by their covers. If you pick up a book and it's obviously done in a very amateur way, we might put it down, or the trust signal that conveys is maybe not strong enough for us to say, I have confidence that reading this book will be a good use of my time. The same thing is true for podcasts. And this is where not being able to show you my presentation is really going to be a thing. But most of us are visually driven, even when it's an audio medium. And so the number one way people find podcasts is recommendations from friends, family, and other trusted resources. The second way is browsing. So looking through the Apple Podcasts app, looking through Overcast, looking for covers that are beautiful and attract the eye. So I have a beautiful slide here filled with shows that I think have beautiful cover art. But you know what? I'm going to encourage you to do something, and that is to go into your podcast app, and you can do this now or you can do it later, and scroll through the browsing section or the discover section or whatever it's called in the app that you use. And I want you to actually go through and take a look at what catches your eye. What really makes you say, I want to listen to that podcast? And it might be hard for you to put into words, but look at a lot of them. Maybe take screenshots of the ones that you like and say, okay, so I like contrasting colors, or I like this really big font because it's easy to read. I can actually like read the name of the show. I like this one because it's thematically appropriate. It's a gardening podcast, and there's a lot of really beautiful, healthy plants on it. Yes. So just ask yourself what works, what appeals to you, what doesn't, and then also make sure that you're following just best standard guidelines. So making sure that your artwork is a 3000 by 3000 pixel square, making sure the text is easy to read. By that, I mean shrink your logo down to like 125 by 125 pixels and see if you can read it from there, because that's usually how it's going to show up on somebody's mobile device. And that can be the difference between them listening to your show or just scrolling past it. Use your brand colors and fonts if you have them, so stay true to your brand. And then when in doubt, simple text over a solid background or simple text over an image is just classy, iconic, and effective. So the other thing that I'd encourage you to do is when you have a mock-up of your potential show arts, ask people. Do a poll. If you don't have a big Twitter following or a big Tumblr following or a big Facebook following or a big Instagram following, you don't even have to ask on social media. You can like literally take your screen and show it to people whose opinions you care about and say, you know, you're my sister. Hey, sister, what do you think about this as show art? Do you think this is catchy? Do you think this speaks to the theme of my show? Ask people if they think it works. If you know any designers who can help, have any input, ask people if it works or not. Oh, can I please repeat the dimensions? Yes. So your show art should be 3000 by 3000 pixels. Yes. Yep. 3000 by 3000 pixels. And it should be a square, just so that it fits in and looks nice with all of the other artwork. And then as many visually appealing elements as you can use. So good contrast, making sure that the words are large enough to read. What is the best way to design show art? Asks Paul. Okay, so I designed my first show art in PowerPoint. I'm not a designer and I do everything myself, but then I discovered Canva, and that's Canva, canva.com. You can create a 3000 by 3000 pixel canvas and create it in there. Yes, I'm getting some yikes for having to design my first logo for right now in PowerPoint. Yes, an observer picture says it's also good to do a 16 by 9 version if you plan to have it as a banner on social media. Yes. And that's a whole nother talk altogether. But those are sort of the basics there. All right, I'm going to jump into the last and final secret. Getting a lot of love for Canva here in the comments, by the way. So it's a great program and it's free to use. So use the heck out of it. It's really fantastic. Actually, why don't I'm going to set down one of my 3 beverages here and just type in the comments here. It's just canva.com. I don't know if that'll turn into a link or if it works, but that'll help you find it. All right, so secret number 5. Technology and equipment are nothing without good content. So like I showed you earlier here in my studio, I have very bare bones equipment, but my show has been a success. And that is because I've asked myself this question: why will people listen to your show? Because chances are, unless they have a background in like audio production or audio editing or sound design or something, they're not listening to your show purely because of the technical aspects. They're listening to your show because it gives them something that they're looking for, whether that's entertainment, whether that's some kind of education or information or data, whether that is the dialogue between characters that they've grown to love, any of that stuff. Why will people listen to your show? And why will people keep listening to your show? I write these two questions down and I actually have them over here on the side of my monitor. Why will people listen to your show? And why will people keep listening to your show? And that is because I never offer anyone less than my best. I never offer anyone less than my very, very best. And that is why it has taken me 5 months to get the newest episode of Girl in Space out to you. Because the first several, and by several, I mean like 10 drafts that I wrote, weren't good enough. It wasn't good enough. It didn't do the characters justice. It was going to disappoint a lot of listeners. And so I kept rewriting that script until it was finally good enough. Yeah. Because people will listen if you have a good show and your audio's maybe a little shaky. Like you might get some like 3 or 2 or 1 star reviews in iTunes for like, oh, this person doesn't have great sounding audio, but they won't listen at all if you don't have good content. I don't know if you've read anything by Cal Newport. He's one of my favorite productivity writers, but something that he says has always stuck with me, and that is, be so good they can't ignore you. Be so good, they can't ignore you. Paul Eaton is asking an excellent question, and that is, do you keep people informed about timing? Is consistency a best practice? Consistency is a best practice, but if you can't make the consistency happen, because a lot of the time life happens, I have some other stuff going on in my business and in my life where, in addition to not having a script I was happy with, I just couldn't deliver the latest episode yet. And that is managing expectations. So if you are very, very vocal about, hey, this episode is coming, it's 3/4 of the way done, I ran into a snafu, or, my dog is in the hospital, or I'm working on something else with my business right now and I can't prioritize this, just let people know what's going on. I did an okay job of that on social media. I did a terrible job of that on my RSS feed. What I should have done several months ago was like release a little update that said, hey, it's Sarah and I'm not dead, and the last episode of Girl in Space is still coming. So managing expectations and letting people know what they can expect from you is almost more important than consistency. So just let them know what's going on. So yes, be so good they can't ignore you is the last of the secrets. So again, recapping, secret 1, know what success means for your show. Create that mission statement and understand what it means to find success. Not someone else's success, but your own success for your own show. Secret number 2, a little kindness goes a long way. Secret number 3, your audience is not everyone, and that's okay. Secret number 4, visual elements often matter a lot more than you think. And secret number 5, technology and equipment are nothing without good content. So thank you for attending today's live stream that doesn't accidentally have a podcast, or excuse me, a PowerPoint attached to it, but hopefully the next one will, and you can see these slides that I took a million years putting together. It's a fantastic time to start podcasting, and I wanted to let you know, and like, I'm such a dork. We're going to do Q&A in just a few minutes, so do hold your questions if I didn't answer them during the presentation. But I'm offering a podcasting masterclass. It is 52 videos. Yes, 52 videos of me talking. Each video is at least 20 minutes long. It is a lot of content. The course will take you about 12 weeks. And yeah, it's called Podcast Now, and you can find it on my website, sarahwerner.com. And in fact, oh, thank you guys. You're saying such nice things here in the comments. You're so wonderful. All right. There is a link to my course if you want to take a look at it. It is a bit of an investment, so it's maybe not for where you are right now, but if it is for where you are right now, you get a lot of stuff with it. So you get 52 video lessons that will take you from the start of your podcast, so from ideation to what makes a good mission statement, what makes for a good vision statement, how do I do branding, what is the difference between branding and marketing, what sort of equipment do I need, what is good microphone technique. There are videos on all of these topics. And basically, they take you from ideation all the way over until you launch. And then it takes you a little bit after launch to say, once you launch, what do you need to be doing even after that to help your podcast find continued growth? And how do you keep redefining success in a way that you are climbing up that staircase? So again, you can find my course at sarahwerner.com. That's sarahwerner.com/podcast-now. It is called the Podcast Now Masterclass. Let's see, what else can I tell you about it? Because I have this like really, really beautiful presentation for it, and you can't see it. If you do decide to sign up between now and Friday, so the course is only open today, June 4th through June 7th. So I'm only taking registration this week. So be sure that you sign up if it seems like the right fit for you, because the price will be going up the next time I offer the class. And so this is going to be the lowest price that it is at. And Tim brings up an excellent point. He says you do get lifetime access, and that does include all the videos. It includes the workbooks and printable worksheets, all of which are action and strategy oriented. It also includes lifetime access to my Podcast Now Masterclass forum, where I'm always available to answer your questions, except when I'm sleeping. Hopefully that's understandable. But I do answer questions there whenever you have them. I have live office hours. I do live streams. And if the price tag is a little yikes for you, please do know that I offer scholarships. So if you are a marginalized podcaster, if you're a person of color, a member of the LGBTQ community, if you have any other issues that you're dealing with, let me know. Shoot me an email, and I can let you know about scholarships that are available. You can also go into the course with other people. And so if like 6 of you want to band together and chip in and share the course, you have my 100% happy consent to do that, because I do want to make it available to as many people as possible. So again, it will drag you kicking and screaming, whether that's with grief or joy, throughout the podcast creation process. So I hope you check it out. Again, the URL is right here. It's sarahwerner.com/podcast now. And registration is open through Friday. So that's Friday, June 7th. If you sign up during this webinar, you do get a special add-on of a one-on-one consultation call with me. And so that's usually $150 an hour, but you get it for free if you sign up today. So just a little incentive there. Okay, I'm going to stop shilling my course because that's not what you're here for. But if you are here for it, then thank you. And please do check it out. We'll do some final Q&A. I don't know why I'm still going through my slides that you can't see. Any final questions that I can answer here? And I'm happy to stay on the video as long as you guys have questions. Let's see. Noam says, thank you so much, Sarah. Just to let you know, this is the first time in about 7 months I actually took notes in a class instead of zoning out. So good job. Thank you. I appreciate that. Makes me feel really happy. Thank you for saying that. Sin Ribbon says, I can personally attest to Sarah's willingness to help and how much she's helped me just by being a ray of light. Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you so much. You're so wonderful. Mateo says, thanks for the live chats. Hannah says, how much do you think about what your audience wants to hear versus what you want to make? Oh, that's such a good question. So the reason it's a balance. The reason that you get into podcasting is because you love talking about something, but because it is a podcast, you can never forget that you're creating it for other people. I think about a podcast as an act of service, as an act of doing something of value for someone else. And it's always a good idea to keep your listener top of mind. One thing that we can talk about in the next live stream, which is going to be about marketing, is creating audience personas and avatars, where you will have a sort of top of mind idea of what a person, a listener, sort of the target audience for your podcast will look like, and speak to them. When I do the Right Now podcast, I have that person right in the top of my mind. And it helps me keep a consistent voice because I'm speaking to that same person every time. And so, it's sometimes a balance too. Like sometimes episodes of the Right Now podcast, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to talk about this topic forever and I'm so excited. And it'll get kind of a meh response. And then one that comes off of a topic that maybe a listener submitted will get all over social media. And people are like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for someone to talk about this when it wasn't something initially I had really wanted to talk about. So there's a little bit of a balance there. Just keep an ear out for what your audience tends to prefer. You don't necessarily have to be a slave to everything that they want, but do try to provide them value that will help you find success. John says, this is not a question, but I keep hearing you as X despite the fact that this is you as yourself. Thank you. Kinney asks, what happened in the non-published versions of Girl in Space? Oh, those are those like 10 original versions that I wrote of episode 13. I'm actually going to be sharing those as deleted scenes on my Girl in Space Patreon. And so if you're a Patreon member, there's a certain level I think I'm sharing them with, but yeah, those will be available as deleted scenes. Again, they will not be canon because only the published episodes are canon, but you might get a kick out of reading them. There's one part where Danny has too much coffee again, and it's kind of delightful. Sarah Cassidy says, I'm about 3/4 of the way through the course and I'm absolutely loving it. The videos are fantastic and I've learned so much. Hoping to launch next month. Awesome. Sarah, that's amazing. I'm so glad. Sarah Brandel also took notes as well. Awesome. Misha says, grateful to you for sharing your wisdom and positivity. Thank you. All right. Whew, 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 whew. So I'm an introvert, and so doing live streams like this kind of takes a lot out of me. Oh, one more question here from Misha. Says, for audio drama, how much do you feel you need to respond in script to your audience's opinions and reactions? Oh boy, that's a really good one. I was on a panel at PodX this weekend with the folks from Night Vale and then Adventures in New America, The Truth, The Bright Sessions, and everybody had a different answer for this. Most people are respectful of listener and fan opinions, but they don't necessarily cater to them. So everyone, and I don't know, I maybe listen a little bit too much. I'm like, ooh, everybody likes Kai. Kai should be a bigger character. So I kind of, I don't know, I indulged that because it was fun for me. But a lot of other people, they'll often write the entire script and produce the entire show before they start releasing it. I know a lot of, especially audio dramas, do that. I don't, because I'm a pantser and I like do everything last minute. So I like write an episode and then I produce it and then I release it and then I write the next episode. And all the time I'm like looking at my reviews and looking at who, people are shipping on Tumblr and Twitter. And I try not to let it affect me too much because I do have a story in mind that I want to follow. But yes, it's a little bit of a balance. And so I hope that answers your question. It's kind of what do you want to let in to your creativity? What's healthy? Sin Ribbon says, pantsers unite. So there's a difference between plotting your novel or your fictional work and then pantsing it. So like doing it by the seat of your pants. And I'm just an unrepentant pantser, if you will. Pantsers, yes. Dawn asks, do you know anyone who has done more improv than scripted storytelling? Yes. There are a lot of really amazing improv shows. And there's improv shows, and then there's shows where like I send out the script and then somebody will like improv a line and I'll decide to keep it. So yes, for improv shows, if you're specifically interested in that, Mission to Zix is a really good sci-fi improv show. I think Hello from the Magic Tavern is improv. Voyage to the Stars is a brand new sci-fi improv. And then the folks from Alba Salix. Eli, I don't know if you're still here. What's your new show called? I don't know if you're here or not. Anyway, the folks from Alba Salix and The End of Time and Other Bothers are starting a new sci-fi improv show. And so listen to those and you'll kind of Yeah. You'll kind of see the good side of improv versus scripted. Civilized. Thank you, Claire. Civilized is the name of the new Alba Salix show. And then how much editing is too much or enough? Um, I have to judge it by ear. I like literally sit right here at this desk that, you're looking at me. This is where I sit to edit to. And I just sit here and I close my eyes and I listen to what I've edited. And for me, it has to sound natural and it has to have a lot of pauses and a lot of silences and time for people to digest and reflect on what they've heard. Also, I've heard a lot of podcasts where the dialogue just runs into each other with no white space, with no silence. And it can just be overwhelming for a listener. So I just close my eyes and constantly ask, if I was overhearing this conversation, is it believable that two people would be having this conversation? And that's usually where I leave it. For me, less is sometimes more. I know that it can kind of get exciting to layer in a whole bunch of sound effects and music and just different sound elements over dialogue. But for me, the story is the most important thing. And sometimes extraneous sound effects and music can get in the way of that. And so you'll notice in Girl in Space, I purposefully don't have a score, which means that I don't have music in the background of my show. I have an opening song and I have a closing song, but I don't have any musical scoring in between. And I do that on purpose so that you can focus on the voices. So let's see. John says, our podcast is improv, but it's an actual play RPG with scripted bits peppered in. Yes. Oh, yeah, duh. Sorry. That's on me. A lot of actual play and live play RPGs are improv, and it's fantastic storytelling. So those are really, really fun. Let's see. Why are all podcasts so quiet? That's a great question. I think a lot of people don't follow industry standard loudness guidelines, if I'm being honest, or maybe they just don't know to. So that's something that you'd want to look in is loudness standards and guidelines. Yes, white space is important. Silence catches people off guard in a good way. Yes. Thank you, Lee. Lee says that he finds himself humming along with the Girl in Space theme song. You guys, gals, and non-binary pals, I am so glad that you have joined me for today's live stream. Thanks for putting up with the fact that my presentation isn't here for you and doesn't work. I don't know, maybe you took away more like looking at my face the whole time. I have no idea. I'm just really excited you were here. I'm excited I got to speak with you. Make sure that you check out, let's see, the How to Write a Mission Statement article in Forbes. Make sure you check out canva.com for your show art designing. It's a free program. It's fantastic. Check out sarahwerner.com/podcast now, or you can just go to my website and click the button that says My Masterclass to learn more about the Podcast Now Masterclass. And thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy your day. I cannot wait. So make sure that the next two of these, the next one is going to be Thursday, June 6th. It's going to be at noon Central Time, so the same time as this one. And that one is about marketing. And then on Friday, I am presenting a very special how to write an audio drama script presentation. And I'm co-presenting that with the Austin Film Festival, which is a very prestigious writers festival that takes place in Austin every year. So do show up for both of those. The information should be in the emails that I'm sending out. And yes, thank you guys so much for being here. So this afternoon, I'm going to get to work on episode 13 of Girl in Space. So yeah, I hope that you had fun. I hope that you learned one thing maybe, or two things, maybe even if you're listening to this again for the replay of this video. All right. Bye, friends. Bye for now. Bye.